Hello, my name is LoG, and welcome to part 2 of this minor diminished power-up. If you enjoy this type of instructional material, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below. And now let's get on to the lesson. All right, so this part's going to be very similar to the first part. Pretty much everything I talked about in that first part, meaning experimenting with fingerings, experimenting with how you want to pick through this or what you want to do with your right hand. All of that applies to this one as well. Even kind of musically what we're doing, up and down arpeggios, pretty much happening as well. We are going to throw in one dominant seventh arpeggio, little change here as a transition chord into the next section, which we'll get into. But let's just get started with how this first one is. So if you remember, part 1 ended on this 5, right? If I run that one more time. That's the end of part 1. That's where we're starting part 2. So if you recall how we were moving through the arpeggios in part 1, specifically the minors, we were playing like 1 to 1 and then 3 to 3. What do you think we're going to do now? 5 to 5. Exactly the same idea, just moving through these inversions. So I'm on 5 right here. I can play 5, same fret, down a string, 1, flat 3, 5. 5, 1, flat 3, 5, like that. Now, again, you don't have to play it like this. A lot of people might prefer doing something like this. 5, 1, reaching on the same string, right? From the E flat to the A flat. 5, 1, 3, 5, because then it starts to feel like that really, I can't play it, but there we go, that really normal arpeggio that everyone plays. You can play it like that. I'm choosing to play it like this, like that. So again, you can experiment however you want. 5, 1, flat 3, 5. Then we're going to come down the diminished in a very similar way. We're going to start this diminished on the 4. So if this is 5, 4 is right there. Of course, you could have started on flat 6 because flat 6 is really close to 5, but I'm doing it on 4 just for fun. So that's going to be 4, the 2, natural 7, flat 6, coming down that diminished like that. This is actually the same exact shape from the first part of part 1. So if you remember, we were working up like this. Watch this diminished shape. Right? Next string, same string. That's exactly the same shape here. There's our note. Next string, same string. So, right, very, very common shape. So that's the same one there. So that one should already be in your hands. Like that. Now, once we're done here, this is where things change a little bit. We're on this note, the flat 6. We're going to jump up to the root up top, root of A flat, but now we're not playing A flat minor anymore. This A flat is turning into a dominant 7th chord, which means it is now the 5 of a setup chord, the 5 of the next chord that we're going to, which is D flat minor, and that's exactly what's happening. So we're walking up A flat dominant, which looks like this, just straight up, kind of 2 octaves, almost 2 octaves. So A flat, so 1, 3, 5, flat 7 on the same string, 5, flat 7, right? 1, 3, 5, flat 7, 1, 3, 5, 3, and then we end here on that root of D flat. Again, what are we implying right there? A flat dominant, the 5 of D flat, which I've talked extensively about. So anyway, walking up that arpeggio one more time. That's it. So one more time. 1, 3, 5, flat 7. 1, 3, 5, 3. Yeah, back to 3, and then coming down. And I would recommend, because the next part we're actually coming down right there. So I would recommend hitting that note. If you're playing it exactly like how I'm playing it, I would recommend ending on your ring finger because that's the note that we're going to start on in the next part in part 3. So play like this. Even though middle finger kind of makes sense right there. I mean, I guess you could do that too. It's kind of up to you, but just be aware that you are going to keep going down another arpeggio once you get to this note. So whatever finger you choose to end this part with, make sure that it flows into the next part when we start to learn it. So let me play that whole thing one more time. Pretty straightforward. A flat minor, 5 to 5. 5, 1, 3, 5. Down the diminished starting on the 4 right there. Reach up to play the root of A flat, and we continue up A flat, dominant 7th. 1, normal 3, 5, flat 7, 1, normal 3, 5, normal 3, and then end on this note, which feels like A flat's 4, but in reality, it's the root of the chord that we are implying at that point, which is D flat minor. We'll play that one more time without talking. Play a little faster. One more time. And that's pretty much it. Again, all of the technical stuff I talked about earlier, what my right hand is doing, it's pretty much verbatim, the same exact thing right here, right? Pick, middle finger, hammer on, ring finger for that G string, coming down, downstroke, upstroke, follow through, pull off, right? And then when I get up here, I'm sometimes picking this note, sometimes I'm just straight up hammering onto it, the root of that dominant 7th chord. Once I'm here, middle finger, ring finger, hammer on, middle finger, ring finger, hammer on, pull off. So that whole passage, I'm actually never picking, I think. I think I'm only using fingers, so hammering on from here. Right, so there's no pick stroke happening in there at all, which is kind of weird, but that is, I guess that's what's comfortable for me. Again, you don't have to do that. You can experiment however you want, but that's how I'm doing it, so that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's the part. I'll play it one more time, nice and slow. That's it. That is part 2. Of course, this video is going to have 2 backing tracks, a backing track for just that part right there. Part 2, that one's going to run 50 to 120. And then we're going to do both parts, part 1 and part 2. Let me play both of those together. Part 1. So that's going to be the whole thing for that second backing track where we'll run both sections. And that one I think will run 60 to 130. I can't exactly remember. It doesn't matter. You'll see it on the screen and you can figure it out for yourself. But same thing, practice the stuff, connect all these parts, and when you're ready, we can get on to these backing tracks. That does it for part 2. As usual, if you enjoyed this type of instructional material, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below, and I'll see you all in part 3.